Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening. Consideration of agenda items. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a request to revise item 6A, the government center request. I would like to revise a request to state that we are asking the board to consider approval of proposal request 14 from Sibley Electric for a cost not to exceed $68,804.24 and to include an uninterrupted power supply of up to 100 kilovolt ampere load capacity. Right now it reads asking for that exact. The reason we would like to change it to not to exceed is in the case that we do a lesser version of that project.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payment of the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I move the payment of the bills.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger for payment of the bills in the amount of $133,165.97. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have an update regarding COVID-19. Start with Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. And I know we just spoke about COVID a few minutes ago, so I will keep it brief. But I was originally planning to talk about the increase in cases locally at the previous meeting, but we'll cover it here in light of needing to hit on other topics. So where we're at today, just over 8 million cases worldwide, 438,000 plus deaths in the U.S., 2.1 million cases. And we're still at the rate of about 18 to 20,000 new cases a day in the U.S., 116,000 deaths, and that's about a 500% increase since yesterday. So even though we seem to be plateauing a little bit in the U.S., the numbers are really still pretty staggering when you think of it at the individual level. In Minnesota, cumulatively, we have almost 31,000 cases as of this morning. That's about 200 more from the day before, and about 1,300 deaths, and that is an increase of 9 from the previous day. In McLeod County, as Lori mentioned earlier, we have now 55, we have had 55 positive COVID cases. That's an increase of 2 from yesterday, and we still have had no deaths, and so we continue to feel very fortunate about that. The piece I just wanted to touch on today is contained on both sides of the handout that I just gave you. So if you want to start on the side that has the multiple graphs on it, we talked a little bit last week or at the last meeting about where we're at in the pandemic, and are we kind of rounding that first wave of cases? And what the graphs on the left-hand side kind of show, the top one on the left is the Minnesota case overview. So the cumulative cases that we've had in Minnesota, positive COVID cases, is the top line, and that's the one that's sort of curving to a plateau. And then right beneath that, the bar graph shows day by day how many new confirmed cases have come in. So if you'll notice on that curve looks suspiciously like a first wave completing and coming back down. And the same with the hospitalization graph on the bottom, and some people believe that looking at the hospitalizations is really the best way to tell where we're at in the pandemic. And again, we see an initial curve coming up and seeming to come down. So we're kind of seeing some initial signs that perhaps we are coming down from the first wave of the disease. Unfortunately, if you move to the right on that page, this gives several possible scenarios. Typically, pandemics do have multiple waves, and there's a number of different ways it can occur. Number one shows that you can kind of have peaks and valleys. Scenario 2, which I think a lot of people right now are pretty concerned about in Minnesota, is having a smaller peak in the summer followed by a large peak in the fall. So this discussion we had earlier about when is COVID over and when are these waivers really able to be complete, certainly is illustrated, underlined by these points that it may be quite a while until we're finished with COVID. And then there's, the alternative on the bottom that shows the slow burn. So that's kind of gives you the statewide picture, but I do want you to turn over to the back too. That shows the number of positive cases in McLeod County. So the bar graph shows the number of new cases that we've received each day by date. Okay. And unfortunately, the case in McLeod, I did a best fit line here. This is just me. This isn't a mathematical line, but kind of showing the overall curve that we're seeing locally. And the reality is there is some variation across the state. It doesn't look like quite yet in McLeod County we've hit our peak. We still are increasing a little bit in the number of our cases. Now, you might say that's because we have increased testing. That's probably true, but we also have increased testing statewide, and we're starting to turn the corner. So I guess I just wanted to give you a brief status update where we're at statewide, probably in the pandemic, or where it looks like we're headed, and then in McLeod. It appears we're still be climbing. We don't know yet what the impact of all these protests will be and whether that could cause an earlier second wave before fall. We'll certainly all be watching in the next couple days as the test results start to roll in from that time frame and see how it impacts the overall course.
Thank you. Any questions for Megan?
Mr. Chair, if I may just ask one
Yes.
question. On the hospitalization graph
Yes.
there, it shows the darker part of the graph is the hospitalized, non-ICU, and then below that is the ICU unit.
Yes.
Are we, we're probably not reaching capacity in ICU in any way, so
Not currently, no, Mr. Chair and
we're
Commissioner.
not pushing any limits at this point.
Not at this time, no.
All right, well, that's good news.
Absolutely,
We can
absolutely.
take care of whoever needs treatment. So,
At the present time, we can, yes.
thank you.
All right, thank you
Okay.
very much, Megan. All right, Kevin?
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I knew I was going to do that. Don't have a whole lot of updates for you this morning, just really one item, and that is kind of FEMA, our FEMA reimbursement. So obviously, for those that aren't aware, we did get a federal declaration for disaster area for this COVID response, and the whole state and whole nation, for that matter, is a part of that. So what that means is we have a 75% reimbursement from the federal government for eligible expenses. That's considered our emergency protective measures. And then the remaining 25%, as we know it, should be coming from the state of Minnesota from the disaster assistance contingency account. So we're in the process. I met with Colleen in Finance yesterday, and we got copies of all our invoices and the FEMA forms that we have. I was hoping to submit it today. However, that my job got kind of filled in and the schedule got filled in, so I didn't get to it today. But I do have it on the agenda for tomorrow. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be submitting all our expenses from April and May. So with those expenses, totals about $23,575 of eligible expenses that we're going to submit through FEMA or to FEMA. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to know from them, they're going to look at it and say that, yes, this is eligible, or no, it's not. But what we have been telling our departments is to make sure that it's COVID related. So it has to be coronavirus response dedicated type of supplies, masks, gowns, sanitary supplies, things, cleaning and different stuff like that. So, and those eligible expenses. So what we did is we have those, and we'll be submitting that for future reimbursement here real soon. And then after that, we're going to submit on a monthly basis. So,
Very good. Good update. Any questions for Kevin?
Mr. Chair,
Doug?
does it have to be stuff? I mean, we only qualify in these grants of stuff, none of our extra work is eligible. I mean, when you or gave some examples, it was all stuff or supplies.
Yeah. Yeah, what it is we have all materials and supplies. Wages are eligible as long as they're overtime. So straight time is not eligible under FEMA as we know it today. So those costs, we did meet with Colleen, and I think there's some other grant money that specifically public health has received, and that money can't be used because that's grant money for for COVID related. So that is something that we're looking at to see if we can do that, but it's mainly materials and supplies at this point.
I'm seeing quite a few, I'm getting quite a few emails on different grants or different monies, and which silo does everything fit in? I have no idea, but.
Sure, so.
Ron, do you have something?
Not too deep a subject, but personal protective equipment that you've acquired here at the county. Is this strictly for county employees, or are you able to distribute that to some of the smaller enterprises that cannot acquire personal protective equipment directly?
Yes, we are kind of, the emergency management is kind of the coordinator of receiving all of that supplies, and we're disseminating it out from there. So, we do have chains in the state of Minnesota as far as personal protective equipment. So if it's health related, like hospitals, they go to the healthcare coalition. If it's ambulances, they go to the Emergency Services Regulatory Board. For police and fire, they would go to their county emergency manager, myself, and stuff. So I have been submitting a lot of stuff to our police and fire departments and some ambulances too that request equipment. So
In our prior meeting, we talked about senior housing, extended care facilities, those types of things. Are they also eligible? Or?
We do provide them with some guidance for sure of where to supply their equipment. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have enough personal protective equipment, and the priorities, say that we should probably give them out to the healthcare and then kind of save it for the long run. But if we do have some extras, we do keep in close contact with them through regular meetings that we're hosting.
All right, great, thank you.
How about our IT pieces that have been, to comply with open meeting laws during the Zoom process? We've had to, not that we found out we were very well equipped, but we had to do a few things to equipment or hardware wise to make sure that could work. Are any of those eligible reimbursements?
As of right now, yes, we do have those in there. So we do have our 10 Zoom licenses, I think, that we've purchased. I think we have, if I count right, 37 cell phones that we put in there, so people can actually work remotely. So those are included in the stuff that I'm going to be submitting here real soon. So.
Very good. All right. Well, if nothing else for Kevin, we'll let you go. So
Okay,
thank you very much. Sheila?
Thank you. The majority was covered by Kevin and Megan. Just noting still that our staff continues to start working at their regular capacity. We've opened up more services. Walk-in services are available at our Health and Human Services building now as needed. Again, if people do not need to visit the facility, we prefer that they access that by telephone or computer. Also, court services opened up this week, so court administration window is back open at the McLeod County Courthouse. And I'll just stop there.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, good updates. We appreciate it. And we'll continue to ask for those probably every meeting. All right, Call County Government Center, maybe an update and a request. I'm not sure who's.
Travis is here.
Travis?
Travis, I can read the updated request if you would like. I have it here, or would you like to?
Nope, that's fine. Go ahead and read.
We did go over it during the agenda approval. So you see item A, what we did with that is we're just changing it from considering approval of that exact amount, instead going up to the amount. I'll bring this to him because he is going to tell you a story. You get the picture for it to make it easier to understand why we are doing this and what we've been meeting over the past week with construction and with the budget committee to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
All right, yes. Good evening, Commissioners. And I know I got Matt with me as well to help explain some of the technical parts of what actually goes on with some of this. But the gist of the discussion is the base plans initially called for a 30 kVA UPS, which provides uninterruptible power. So if power failure occurs, it kind of bridges that gap between when the power went out and when your generator kicks on. Through vetting out some of the options and looking at what's all going on, ended up determining through the project that maybe this isn't going to be quite enough time or enough capacity. As Matt was doing homework and going through various pieces, we needed to size that up. Not in the plans. We need to kind of make that transition. Don't want to leave you guys in a spot where you don't have adequate capacity. Nothing worse than going through a job and not critiquing something and making sure we do get it right on the front end. So ISG did some time, did some homework working with Matt. Need to look at considering going to 100 kVA UPS. part of the dialogue today occurred, maybe there are still some other options. So thus Sheila made the motion here to amend this to not exceed this. And we're going to vet out maybe a couple value engineering pieces. Maybe we can reduce some of the runtime and eliminate a battery string within that UPS. So maybe there's other options to bring that $68,000 down. Dollars still being allocated out of the contingency. So still all part of the project budget, just happens to be a nuance within the project where we're at.
I think that you know that as we've gone through the project, any individual item that pops up that wasn't exactly how we expected, Travis has brought that to us and we review it in detail. When he says going up to 100 kVA, UPS is uninterrupted power supply, so it's like gap coverage of battery essentially. When that power goes out, it can damage equipment, but also just remember that our sheriff's office services are going to run through this building. Matt can tell you a little bit more about that and why this is important for us to have adequate supplies to the building. Do you want to come up?
Yes, so when we started designing the government center, we started considering what we need to do with our data center. The data center we have here at the courthouse is not the most ideal space to host that. We've had heating and cooling issues in there in the past, and we've spent large sums of money over the years trying to make that work properly. So one of the things we looked at was moving the data center to the government center. That was included in the plan. All of the servers and everything that run the sheriff's office applications would therefore be moved with that move to the government center. And in order to ensure that those applications work for them in the event of a power failure at the government center, we would need a battery backup device to be able to protect that equipment during that gap from when the utility power goes out to the generator coming on.
Okay, all makes sense, but I guess why do we miss on it the first time? What changed?
So when I was going through, well, when we met with ISG, we identified what equipment was going to be moved over there. Not entirely sure what was completely missed, but as I was going through the design of what we needed to purchase to make the network infrastructure work at the government center, I noticed that the amount of power available was not adequate for the equipment that would be there, which triggered the discussion about how do we get to that point where there would be adequate power.
Well, I'm glad you noticed it now. I wish we'd have noticed it before, but that's me. No use to me taking that out on anybody.
So 100 kVA is taking into consideration future growth, which we're not sure that we want or need. Absolutely. But we would still rough in to be able to assure that any power supply that needs to be added in the future could be with a little change to the structure, correct?
Yep, we did, to Sheila's point, we did discuss that. We thought about kicking the can. I know there's some other options out there, and maybe it is, do you go back to that 30 kVA and can you get all the infrastructure wired in? Part of this other 68, so we pull out that 44. Still vetting that out, visiting with Matt a little bit and our electrician a little bit. It might be better to keep the platform of that 100 kVA, so buy that bigger unit, but it'll have batteries. We could bring out, back out some arrays of batteries to save some of the dollars. And if you ever did have to go further, we have all the infrastructure still there. So yes, like Sheila was saying, let's make sure we get that infrastructure correct. So we got Matt be able to make sure we do everything.
Mr. Chair?
Ron, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, years ago, we were in this discussion about the UPS, uninterrupted power supply. We have a system here at the courthouse now. Will that remain in place, or will that eventually migrate over to the government center?
The UPS that's in place at the courthouse will stay at the courthouse.
Okay, because that serves the jail and everything else as well, right? So, okay, thank you.
Doug?
I've been involved with some of this, and I have faith in Matt, and I've been listening to him and Contegrity, our guys talking, and this is something that we may never need, or may never even use, but I'm leaning to the side that if we ever do, I mean, we have a strong building and, you know, a command center basically. And I really, I want to listen to all the options that they're drawing. I heard some a little earlier and he touched on them now. But we're going through all this work to load our data, and I just really don't want to lose it. And then the work in rebooting and whatever they have to do, or take a chance on ruining some of this equipment, it doesn't seems to outdate itself without blowing it up. But I do have faith in Matt. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So I listen to what he has to say.
All right, well, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the PR 14 with a not-to-exceed price of $68,804.24.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Sheila, anything else on the Government Center before I move on?
No, thank you.
All right, Environmental Services. Mark?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, Mark? Thank you. One item for consideration tonight, we do have a conditional use permit. It is conditional use permit 20-10. Applicant is Sherry Nielsen. She is asking to convert an existing barn into a wedding event venue to be known as South Glen Farms with conditions. Ms. Nielsen has stated that she would employ 6 to 8 staff members per event. Law enforcement will be at the events in which alcohol is served. The applicants do live on the property, and there is one correction to the statement. The property is located on 4.736. There was a typo with this request that is that was submitted by our office. And this is located in the agricultural district in section 33 of Helen Township. Helen Town Board did recommend approval for this request on May 14th, 2020. Planning Commission, the McLeod County Planning Commission recommended approval on May 27th, 2020 with the following conditions. Number 1, an architect, engineer, and Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry reviewed stamped set of plans shall be submitted to the McLeod County Environmental Services Office prior to allowing an event classified as an assembly use under the Minnesota Conservation Code, which is found in Minnesota Rules Chapter 1311. The Conservation Code for existing buildings became effective January 24th, 2015 in Minnesota. Number 2, hours of operation shall be 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Number 3, all event parking shall be defined. Number 4, permanent restroom facilities shall be provided on site for the guests. Number 5, on-site signage shall not exceed 10 square feet. Number 6, all alcohol and food shall be prepared and served by a licensed business. If food is prepared on site, an approved Minnesota Department of Health kitchen area shall be installed. And number 7, rural garbage collection shall be required for this event/venue facility. With that being said, I would offer, or I'll entertain any questions from the board. Ms. Nielsen, the applicant, is present tonight, so if you have questions for her. She did submit a stamped set of plans from her architect, so she has already complied with one of those provisions, conditions that we do have on there. So I did receive those. I just have not gone through those quite yet.
So everything seems to be in line, and I'll make the motion to approve myself in a second, but have you checked the potential tax implications on this piece as far as, because I'm guessing Mark went over that with you and everything, but I just want you to make sure you're fully aware of that. All right, very good. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Pohlmeyer. Any discussion? Here- Go ahead.
I would just comment that at the Planning Commission, we went through this very carefully, and a lot of questions were asked about her business operation, everything. She's done a wonderful job of planning and laying out. Hopefully, everything works out to the best of plans. So,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Hope to see you out there.
Sheriff's Office.
Looks like it'll be a really nice place.
Hello, Tim.
Just here requesting permission to sell a 2014 Ford Utility Interceptor through Fahey Auctions. Like I said, 2014 with over 161,000 miles on it. So,
Motion by Commissioner Wright,
Second.
second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Stay a while next time.
Stay in the back.
Recorder's office.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Auditor Treasurer Connie Kurtzweg and myself are bringing forth a resolution today, and we have been working together, more so too, or again, I should say, making our office to run more efficient and provide better service to the public. Currently, the Auditor Treasurer Office transfers ownership within the county tax system, and moving the duty of transferring of ownership within the tax system to the Recorder's Office would become part of the recording processes. It is the last piece of the puzzle, so to say, to move the land information to the Recorder's Office. Mr. Chair, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board?
If not, I ask for a motion to adopt.
Sure, just a question. Staff-wise, you have adequate staff to make
Yep,
the transition?
we're dividing it up between 4 people.
So there's no additional staff required?
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Auditor Treasurer. Hello, Connie.
Good evening. Given the trend of increased absentee and mail balloting, central count machines are creating efficiencies with their high-speed capacity. The DS-450 has the ability to tabulate 72 ballots per minute as compared to our current equipment capacity of 11 ballots per minute. The DS-450 will be used to streamline the processing of these ballots while decreasing staff time and will aid in tabulating the write-in votes while decreasing time spent by election judges. The price as contracted through MNCCC is $55,330, which includes training, install, and supplies. Maintenance, support, and firmware license total $3,470 for a total cost of $58,800. ES&S is our current hardware and software provider for elections. Prior to the DS-200 purchase from ES&S, which you approved, I think, last year, we did review alternative vendors' software and hardware cost. ES&S is the lowest cost alternative to meet the needs of McLeod County elections. Funding for the DS-450 is available from 2 sources, $21,900 from the Vega 2 grant funds, which need to be used by December 31st of this year or they're lost, and the balance to be paid by the special revenue account designated for voting equipment.
Any questions for Connie?
Mr. Chair. Connie, this is the machine that we've been talking about a couple times that will help out with additional mail-in ballots that are expected to happen at this coming elections.
Right. Additional mail-in and absentee balloting. So I know the Secretary of State has given estimates anywhere between 40% and 60% of registered voters that will be voting either absentee or mail-in. So each year it increases as voters find that convenience.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Connie, I know in the tabulations of elections and stuff, you have to have secured facilities. This machine will be housed in a secured room?
Absolutely. It will only have my access and Janet's access, as also does the DS-200 now that we use for tabulating in-house. And it will just be McLeod County staff that uses this machine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Human Resources. Hannah? Hello.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm just looking to consider approval for, from the Personnel Committee
to increase the current hours of our Fairgrounds Worker. This was after working with Public Works and the Fairgrounds staff to decide the best path forward as we've adjusted due to COVID-19 and how the fairground is shifting. So we had looked to hire someone new, and then the best suggestion from the Personnel Committee was just to extend our current employees' hours. And this does stay within the current budget.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Hannah, when you say extend the current hours, are they going to overtime, or will they just
So this has
increase
been
from
a-
less than 40 hours up to 40 hours?
So this has been a 28-hour person, and we're looking to move them to a 35-hour-a-week employee.
So not a substantial change?
Nope, nope.
Commissioner, I'll add for Hannah that this person is already, we've needed them for these hours already, and they have at times because we did not backfill an opening last year. A couple of months ago, we realized that was just happening too often without a permanent plan, so we had stopped that, and now instead of, like she said, moving forward on an additional full-time seasonal fairgrounds position, this would make more sense for the county to allow that person to work those additional hours needed.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the request for Fairgrounds staff.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to the Commissioners' calendars. Rich?
Okay, since our last meeting, we had the workshop after, where's my calendar here? Wednesday, then I attended via Zoom our AMC District 7 meeting, gave our county report. A little interesting doing a 9-county report over Zoom, so it was, got through it. Most everybody's running with the same problems we are as far as trying to maintain services while working from homes and getting all the county works done in proper orders. Attended the Prime West meeting once again via phone on Thursday. Pack for Families the following Wednesday. Once again, that was by Zoom. Little collaborative that is working, trying to figure out how to continue all the services when a lot of the people we're servicing are not as available as they would like to be. Community Health Board was on Thursday morning. It's again going through the COVID crisis and trying to make sure everything gets covered. On Friday, the Southwest Minnesota Mental Health Awareness Consortium, and once again trying to make sure that anyone that needs the services are available, or the services are available, and what's it starting to look like as counties are starting to open up and back to some state of normalcy, and I'm not sure what that state is exactly yet. Yesterday we had the County Ditch 63 and 64 meetings, trying to solve some of those problems, and that brings me up to today. So, thank you.
Okay, calendar starts with Commissioner Kruger and I sat down with Attorney's Office and SWCD to have discussion on, in my district, there seems to be a group of individuals with a private ditch system that are interested in having that going to a public system. And we needed to have a discussion on how to approach that, and it'll be a long road of meetings for them to get that done. Budget meeting, main topics there, discussion on changes within our government center plans, as well as how to address upcoming budgets as the finance department works with all of our different departments on that. Yesterday we all attended our meetings of 63 and 64. This morning spent time out on CD 15 with some damage done on that ditch system. Also, at the time that I spend with the 4-H program within the last couple weeks, there's been a lot of talk and communication and how to have fair projects, livestock shows. The university has set out a set of guidelines for how to have in-person shows, and it is the guidelines are so steep and heavy in requirements that most counties are opting out of being able to have an in-person show because of all the extra help that is needed. It seems to be a little steep to me, but and so there's discussion on that as well. And I think within the next board meeting, I believe Darcy Cole will be coming in front of us, perhaps at a workshop, to explain some of the changes that have been handed down as far as how that 4-H program will be administered this year with the projects and the absence of all these county fairs. So that's it for me.
The workshop, which was discussed, several personnel committee email, mostly through emails, which I appreciate, that we were able to handle it through that and phone calls. Makes it much more efficient. Was at the ditch meeting yesterday regarding ditch number 63 and really spent some time out on County Road 19 as that progresses. Lots of compliments with that, and also want to compliment the Parks Department regarding Piepenburg Park and the maintenance they've done to some docks out there. They've got some compliments that came through me, so I should pass that along. Ron?
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting on June 2nd in the afternoon, we had a McLeod Sibley Health Plan Joint Powers meeting talking about our health plan, our old plan, which we are closing out. It still has a little bit of revenue left in it, so we had to fund that to get us through the run out of claims on that. There's some funds left over, but we're going to let that ride until the end of the year, just to make sure there's no unforeseen expenses yet. On the 3rd, we had the AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties District 7 meeting by Zoom. Rich mentioned that already. It's interesting because we're on the north end of the 7th district. And the southern end is on the Iowa border, so it's nice to do it by Zoom instead of having to travel way down into southern Minnesota. On Thursday the 4th, we had the Prime West Health Joint Powers Board meeting. Things are going along pretty well. We had considerable discussion on the COVID-19 situation. Incidents within the Prime West Health clientele is very, very small. We had braced ourselves for a major impact, and it's not developing. We're pleased with that so far, but we're not out of the woods yet. On the 11th, then, we had the Meeker McLeod Sibley Community Health Services Public Health Board meeting. And again, we talked about the COVID-19 thing and how our counties are handling that. And things are running really well with that group right now. Also on the 11th in the afternoon, the Association of Minnesota Counties Health and Human Services Committee had a webinar talking about the waivers that we get from federal regulations related to the COVID-19 and serving our health and human services clients. We're really concerned that we get some extension of the waivers, as emergency declarations expire, that we can still continue to use the waivers as long as they're practicable for our staff and our clients. On the 12th, we had the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Joint Powers Board meeting. That was also a web-based meeting. We cover 11 counties with workforce centers. The funding is coming in, but as yet, because the state agency deed kind of regulates how they operate, they haven't been able to open their offices, even though unemployment is running high. So they're kind of getting ready to serve clients that are still unemployed through this COVID-19 pandemic. And then yesterday on the 15th, we had the ditch meetings on CD 63 and 64, and I think we got a lot of issues in the works that are working on solutions, so we're moving right ahead on those. That's it.
Doug?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I noticed I forgot my longhand calendar, so we'll rough it through here, but I attended the meeting on that private ditch in Round Grove and Penn Township, but Baker's Lake, in other words, with representatives of the landowners in that area. And you already commented on the AMC District 7 meeting on the 3rd. Just to comment on that, I noticed the logistics difference, whether it's through the state. I mean, there's not a total agreement on a lot of policies that are going on, and I mean, it's interesting, and I think it's important to be on them meetings to voice the different opinions, because there's not a real solid mandate on some policies that are being brought forth. I also had a Lower Minnesota One Watershed One plan. That was actually one of our first policy. We've had some informational meetings, but we just elected our board and are starting to move forward with that. We see now who's on our advisory team and who's on our policy committee, and I think with the COVID situation it'll be slow, but we're working on that. I had several meetings with the government center this last 10 days. Also several meetings with reviewing some contracts and payments on JD8. I also budget meetings. Everything that I went through has been pretty much complimented or talked about already. 63 and 64 hearings yesterday on those ditches, so brings us up to today.
Sheila, anything else?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
All right, Ron, I'll let you take item A.
All right, Mr. Chair, if you give me a second to dial it up here. Item A is the Resolution 20 CB 26, and Mr. Chair, would you like me to read it for those in attendance, or?
We read it last time, but if you would like to.
All right, we did a couple modifications to it. We added the 5th whereas down there. I'll just read what changed since the last rendition of this. Public Health and Human Services asked me to give some credence to all the work that they've been doing with this COVID-19 pandemic. So the 5th paragraph that we've added says, whereas McLeod County Public Health, in coordination with the CDC and Minnesota Department of Health, continue to deliver important information and interventions that are effective in mitigating the impact of COVID-19 in McLeod County, educating residents and businesses to the important practices necessary to operate safely and prevent the transmission of COVID-19 in this area. The next change was in the now therefore be it resolved. The first two sentences are the same. I'll read the entire be it resolved. Be it resolved that McLeod County does hereby affirm and resolve to uphold the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and further requests that the executive orders of the State of Minnesota beyond the 35-day emergency declaration be written with the consultation of the Minnesota State Legislature and be of limited nature as to duration and application statewide to preserve the constitutional rights of the citizens to the fullest extent possible. And that is the modifications to Resolution 20 CB 26, and I would move for its approval.
And I'll second it. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Doug.
I got a number of calls from our last meeting. There was I think a misunderstanding on some people thought we were not in favor of that resolution. I personally like both of them, and I thank Commissioner Szymanski and Mr. Young for going through and making the changes, and I hope it's helpful, and just for the people that call me, it's a good resolution, and in the sake of the compromise, I would ask my commissioners to vote for it.
Any further discussion? Good job. Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B, Sheila.
Thank you. Item B, presentation of letter from Department of the Army National Guard. As you may know, some of our employees are in the military, and were called to work in the last few weeks with the events happening around the state. We received a letter from Colonel Timothy Kemp, commanding colonel in Department of the Army, for one of our employees, stating, "Families, employers, and communities of 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team soldiers, first, thank you. Thank you for enabling our soldiers, rather your soldiers, to assist in the response to significant civil unrest in Minneapolis and St. Paul when called upon by the governor of Minnesota. Your unwavering support made it possible for them to respond without reservation to this short notice call for help, showing incredible professionalism and effectiveness throughout this state activation. As members of the National Guard, we're charged with both state and federal missions, and we train and prepare year-round for a variety of scenarios. Within hours of receiving orders, soldiers consolidated personnel and equipment, moved hundreds of miles, got established in the Twin Cities, and began conducting missions in support of agencies operating on the streets of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Your soldiers had an immediate impact on the safety, security, and stability of Minnesota's 2 largest cities. We called and they came," said John Harrington, Commissioner of Minnesota's Department of Public Safety. "I said, I'm going to need you, and I'm going to need you here in the city, and I may need you for 2 or 3 days, and I may need you longer than that. And I can't tell you what I'm going to need you to do yet, but I know I need you." And they came. They began preparing readiness to be able to move folks from all over the state of Minnesota, literally from miles and miles away, to come to the metro area to be prepared to help us keep peace. Your soldiers supported the state of Minnesota with honor, integrity, and incredible discipline. They stood alongside emergency responders and law enforcement agencies to ensure our citizens' right to demonstrate safely and peacefully. Their assistance was vital for protecting lives and property. Rest assured, your soldiers stand ready to support your communities just as we did in Minneapolis and St. Paul. They couldn't have done it without you. Your support to your soldiers makes it possible for them to serve our state and nation, and it does not go unnoticed. Thank you for doing your part in contributing to a strong, safe, and thriving Minnesota. We're filled with gratitude for you and all you do. And they wanted to make sure that you received that, so.
Well, thank you, and thank you to all the soldiers that help every day. All right. All right, item C.
Thank you. Item C, notification of Board of Appeals and Equalization to be held at 6:00 p.m. tonight, June 16, 2020, at the McLeod County Courthouse Boardroom, 830 11th Street East, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item D, notification of board workshop to be held tonight following the Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting June 16, 2020 at the McLeod County Courthouse Boardroom, 830 11th Street East, Glencoe, Minnesota. Items to be discussed at the workshop include discussion of McLeod County appointed positions. Item E, notification of board workshop to be held following the board meeting on July 7, 2020, moving back to the Glencoe City Center, West Conference Room, 1107 11th Street East, Glencoe, Minnesota, where we usually hold our meetings. We will be moving back there for our next set of meetings in July. Thank you.
All right. We'll go to open forum. Sheila, I believe you have a letter to read.
I do. David Watts from US Solar is located in Minneapolis and had some information he wanted to present to the board tonight. We let him know that we could share it during open forum. So to the members of the McLeod County Board, David Watts states, we submitted an application for the smallest community solar garden in McLeod County. Under the same ordinance and comp plan, the McLeod County Board has approved 8 unique CUPs on prime farmland totaling 170 acres. The only difference between our application and previously approved applications is that ours occupies less land, yet ours was denied. Further, the reasons provided for denial have already been litigated at the Minnesota District Court of Appeals, who reversed and remanded the county's denial. This denial is unreasonably arbitrary and I don't know how to say that word.
Capricious.
Thank you. Capricious. Thought I had great vocabulary. I was wrong. He goes on to state, Don Milkey is a terrific guy, a farmer of 4 decades, and your constituent. And the property rights you have upheld for others have been unfairly stripped from him. Why? We advise that you review the applicable ordinance and case law and consider your defense. We firmly believe the Minnesota District Court of Appeals would side with approving our application, and it would be a poor use of time and taxpayer dollars to take this to an appeal. David also states, as demonstrated in the public record, the application meets or exceeds the criteria of the ordinance and aligns with previously approved conditional use permits and thus should be approved. We are not asking for special treatment. In fact, we are asking to not be treated specially. We respectfully request that a board member makes a motion right now to have the application reconsidered at a later date, allowing the proper time for public notice. Respectfully, David Watts, Manager, Project Development, United States Solar Corporation. This is not in the packet online. This was received just a few minutes before this meeting while we were in another meeting, so I apologize if anyone needs to review that. They can see Liz. Mike Young is not available at our meeting tonight, and I did speak to him. I believe Mark did as well, and I'm not sure that Mark is still here. There is nothing in our zoning ordinance that allows us to revisit this with it being a closed matter. Without distributing public notice, you cannot discuss this matter because you have not notified the public that you would be reopening it. If they did want to apply again for the same project, they can reapply in 6 months unless the project has changed somehow. And again, just noting that we would need to distribute public notice to discuss this matter as a board. And we can't do that by today, so.
Thanks for the information. All right, any open forum? Anyone wish to address the board? Press relations?
Mr. Chair.
Doug?
Just a couple words. There's, along with my calendar, I left a little paragraph I had written down at home, but I think I gotta go for it anyway. But with things that are going on in this country today, it reminds me a lot of 1968, and it doesn't make me very happy. We got one of the best countries in the world, and we seem to have people that don't know how to appreciate it. But where I'm going today is with our policemen. We have one on the board. We have several cities, I'm not going to name, with police in them. We have our McLeod County Sheriff's Department, and I, as one person on the board, am very proud of our police, and I want them to know that they're definitely needed, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. Anything else? All right, looking for a motion to recess till July 7th, 9 a.m. at the City Center, everyone. I bet we all screw that up. Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will have the Board of Adjustments at 6 p.m.